I was definitely looking forward to Mr. Magoo. I'd seen some of the cartoons. I still have a few more of the cartoons to watch, but what I've seen, I've really enjoyed. And I thought, okay, I'm watching every Disney feature film. I'll wait till I get this one until I reach it chronologically. By then, I would have watched some of the cartoons. I'd have a better idea of the character. And unfortunately, that maybe worked not in my favour, or not in the film's favour. This was released in 1997. It's directed by Stanley Tong. It's written by Pat Profitt and Tom Sherriman, and it stars Leslie Nielsen as Mr. Magoo. And I didn't see Leslie Nielsen as Mr. Magoo. When I realised he was playing the character, I thought that doesn't seem to fit my image of Magoo, or indeed the cartoon's image of Mr. Magoo. But I went in with an open mind, of course, and while Nielsen's performance was very good, he still just never felt like Mr. Magoo to me. So I don't think the casting is right, not because of Nielsen's talent, but purely because I don't think he looks like the character. I don't necessarily think he's quite as bumbling as the character either, so I don't think they got the character quite right. But had I never seen a Mr. Magoo cartoon, had this been my introduction to the character, obviously that would mean absolutely nothing to me. So I have to look at the film in two ways. Is it good if you're a Mr. Magoo fan already? And if you're not, could it be a good experience? And I feel like it's probably not a good film if you're an existing Mr. Magoo fan. And if you're new to Mr. Magoo, I'd say it might be slightly better as an experience, but I'll also don't make this your introduction to Mr. Magoo. This one revolves around some jewel thief that starts off in a museum. Magoo is there and he becomes part of this story where these jewel thieves are trying to get these jewels, and Magoo's nearsightedness really does play into that part of the narrative with him not seeing that certain things are jewels. And yeah, I guess they did an okay job with his short-sightedness. That's significant. I'm not pointing out something random. One of the main things about Magoo's character is that he doesn't have great vision, and that means he often walks into scenarios that are quite peculiar. And I'm happy enough with what they did with that in this particular film, but the rest of the narrative I thought was generally kind of boring, not that interesting. So again, even if you're not if you're new to Mr. Magoo, if you're not a Magoo fan, you still might enjoy it because it just doesn't feel like Magoo very much. But if you're new to Mr. Magoo, I still don't think it'll be a great experience because the film just isn't very interesting. The narrative feels very slow. The characters are not that interesting. I just don't think it's a very good story. But again, if you're new to Mr. Magoo, you might like it slightly more because you won't have those prior expectations. Whereas if you're watching this to see a live-action version of Mr. Magoo, I don't think, at least in my opinion, I don't think the character is very recognisable. Had somebody shown me a clip from this without telling me this was Mr. Magoo and asked me to guess who this character was based on, I don't know if I ever would have considered Mr. Magoo. Maybe the vision problems might have tipped me off, but again, I don't think Nielsen did a bad job with this. I just don't think the casting is quite right. And it's not just his appearance either. I think it's largely also they haven't really got a lot of his mannerisms down, and I don't think his dialogue is perfect for Mr. Magoo. It just doesn't feel like the character to me, and that's a bit of a shame. Judging it on its own, though, as objectively as possible, is it a good film? It's fine. It's average. The narrative flows well enough, but it's not the most interesting. The performances are fine, but the characters are not the most interesting. We do have Magoo's dog, who is absolutely beautiful. So it's watchable. So if you're curious, check it out. You might enjoy bits of it, but for me at least, it just doesn't feel like Mr. Magoo. And I had made the decision to wait until I'd seen some of the cartoons to watch this. And while I don't regret that decision, I do think it would have been a much more enjoyable experience had I not done that, or at least a moderately more enjoyable experience. Either way, Mr. Magoo is not a terrible film, but it doesn't feel like Mr. Magoo, and I didn't particularly enjoy it.